welcome.
Hey,
Stage is yours.
thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, you see this fox up here? My team recently created and launched a campaign with this fox. And I'm going to talk to you about money, about finance, economics. This fox would have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce a couple of years ago. And yes, I'm very happy that we could do it for a fraction of the cost. That's a great thing. Using AI, all the AI tricks in the book, we were able to do this for far less time and money, which is great. But that's not the point of what I want to talk to you about. The point is that a couple of years ago, this campaign would never have been made. It was too risky. We're a public company, billions of dollars on the line. We wouldn't have taken the chance. The point is that AI pushed us and enabled us to be braver. And I think that that is the most important thing that AI can do for a marketer in this age. And I think that as marketers, if we don't exercise the option to be braver, we will be replaced. This is what marketing looks like these days. Everybody is doing similar things in a similar way. AI is all around us. It's in our briefs, it's in our media buying, it's in our creative variations, it's measuring our performance, it's telling us all sorts of useful things. And every marketer is absolutely correct to be racing to adopt it. Nobody wants to be this guy in the back here, this guy with the old phone. He's left behind, he's out of focus. Literally, it's almost like I planned this analogy. But you know all this. It won't surprise you that when we recently did a survey of a couple of hundred marketers, we found that 97% are actively using or testing agentic AI solutions, letting AI run parts of their workflow. That makes perfect sense, but it also means that if you're sitting here thinking that your AI stack is your edge, you're probably wrong. It's an essential part for sure, but it's not really going to make you stand out. Everybody has the tools, everybody's using the tools, everybody has access to the same answers. So it brings us to the next question, which is, how do you stand out in this situation? And to answer that, I have to go to the fish market. Of course, to the fish market. The Hamburg fish market has been operating for the last 300 years. And if you were a chef that knew which fish was in season, or undervalued, or maybe about to be hailed as the next cure for everything, then you could show up at 5 a.m., you could buy the fish, offer a special in your restaurant, make a lot of money, maybe a few Michelin stars. The buyers that didn't know any of that, they didn't do as well, because the edge belonged to whoever knew more, whoever had that additional information. But what happens if everybody has a super smart fish market AI? It's scanning all the fish, it's examining all the recipes. It's telling 1,000 buyers exactly what the previously overlooked fish is worth. So prices become perfect, and the opportunity is harder to capture. The edge is gone. That outperformance kind of slips away. That's called alpha decay. And I'll explain more about alpha decay in a minute, but let's admit that what we all want to be is this chef over here, who's still able to recognize a different opportunity, or maybe recognize it before everyone else. Able to buy it for pennies, sell it a premium, make a fortune, be a visionary and a hero, etc. But what's with this alpha decay thing? How do you do this in the age of AI? So alpha is a term that's borrowed from finance. It means how good you are above the average. If everybody else in the market is getting a 3x return and you're getting a 5x return, then that extra 2x That's your alpha, okay? Now, I know this is going to come as a shock, but I'm not really going to talk to you about a fish market. This is happening in our market. It's happening in advertising. How do I know that? Because I actually do have information others don't. I work at Taboola. We have tens of thousands of advertisers, hundreds of thousands of campaigns, spending billions across the majority of the open web. So there's a lot of data, a lot of perspective. Here's what I'm seeing. This curve, it's a simplified curve. It's showing you the distribution of cost per action on the Taboola network in 2023. So I'm using CPA, cost per action, as a proxy for performance. Obviously, it's a simplified proxy. And of course, the actual data is not this perfect, neat, normalized distribution bell curve, but it's close enough. So this is what it looked like in 2023. You had your overperformers over there, you had underperformers on the left side, and a big stack of average in the middle. But the spread was considerable. There were a lot of overperformers. There's a lot of room on the right side. And there were many struggling to make par, many underperformers. Now, this is what happened within the span of 2 years between 2023 and 2025. The distribution, the variance in CPA shrunk by around 50%. And that's not 50% on just one type of campaign. That's 50% for 52 for engagement and 50% for reach and 40% for purchase objective campaigns. Cut in half. Why? Because AI makes being decent much easier. Okay, you can do the average easier. Okay, but it works both ways. It is that much harder to be an overperformer. Okay? Now, to be clear, AI also made the average better. Okay, the average is better. In that same study that we did, we'll be publishing next week, I hope you all read it, 76% of marketers told us that they see meaningful improvements in performance using agentic solutions. Also makes sense. We see it on our own network. We are fielding new agentic solutions like Realize Plus all the time. If you don't adopt them, you will be left behind. But still, alpha decay is happening in our market. It means that the average is the trap. It means that if you're not breaking free of the average, your CFO is thinking, AI is doing 90% of this team's job. Maybe they're replaceable. Maybe they can be downsized. Maybe maybe a few agents can do this work. So how do you break free of that trap of the average? So in order to find that out, I actually went pretty deep with the advertisers I see on our platform that seem to be achieving that. And these are brands you'd recognize, and they're across many different verticals and products. You've got insurance, and you've got home and garden, and you've got health and wellness and credit cards, all sorts. But they do have something in common. There was a common thread. They not only have courage, but they've found a way to operationalize the courage. It's a part of how they operate. They have a system, okay? And they've found a way to have a culture of courage, to have a mindset of risk-taking built into how they operate. It takes different forms. For some, they have a master metric. They compare everything in a very simplified way, everything they do, all the different activations in a very simplified way. They know it's not perfect, but it helps them cycle through a lot of testing fast and make up their minds and move. For others, they have a real kind of target for testing. They have a target to test a certain amount of new channels, new platforms, new strategies, and they're relentless about meeting that target. Others, they're just very big on momentum. They want to make sure that whenever they see momentum, they're putting a lot behind it quickly. They want to judge it fast. They would rather lose money on a failed pilot than lose an opportunity that they think has 51% probability of success. Whatever it is, they're actively seeking out that lobster, and they are willing to try cooking it in white wine or in Red Bull. Now, I want to be clear. When I'm advocating for courage, I'm not advocating for recklessness. Okay? The guys I'm talking about, they are not just throwing money at random ideas and hoping something sticks. There's a system there. They've created a system for finding the value, okay? And it may seem strange to someone on the outside. Using pigs to find truffles seems a bit strange, but it works, and the pigs are cute. And the point is that they have something they believe in, they have something they've gotten their CFO on board with, and it helps them move and it helps them be courageous. So being courageous without a system is recklessness. Being courageous with a system is how you outperform. How do you build that system? How do you build a system that helps you find your alpha and helps you be brave? I'll tell you what I use, but first, I have to admit that me and my team, we had to get past a bit of risk ourselves. We had to come to grips with the fact that we couldn't analyze our way out of uncertainty. Now, if you're anything like me, when you encounter uncertainty, the instinct is to go do more homework. Let's get more data. Let's do more testing, okay? Which is great. It's great to be data-oriented. It's great to be diligent. But remember, that's kind of how we got into this story. If everybody's going to do more analyses with similar AI tools, they're going to get to similar conclusions, be back to bidding on the same fish. No, you kind of have to come to grips with the fact that there's no way to get to certainty fast enough to have impact. By the time you're sure, it's often too late. So you have to create the system that allows you to operate despite the uncertainty and not tell yourself that you're going to analyze your way out of it. For me and my team, that's taken the form of an investment portfolio. We spend tens of millions of dollars across all the different types of activations and platforms. An investment portfolio, if you're thinking, wait, I have a mix of stuff, I have a portfolio. Well, if you're doing a mix of different types of activations and using all sorts of tactics and channels and strategies, that still doesn't mean you're thinking about it as a portfolio. Why? Because if you're expecting everything you do to have positive return, that's not a portfolio. It's not a portfolio. In a portfolio, you do have a mix that exposes you to different risks and different opportunities and different levels of safety, but you actually expect some of the stuff to lose money. You expect only some of it to work out. There are two distinct parts to a portfolio: exploit and explore. The exploit is the stuff that you know works. It's the tried and tested channels and activations and tactics that you know you can use as a foundation. It's a foundation so that you don't lose your shirt in the casino. But the thing is, that's where alpha decay is going to hit you the hardest, because if it's very tried and tested for you, it's probably tried and tested for others. So the real trick is to use exploit to give you the confidence that you can afford to explore. Your exploit is where most of your money is, but it has to enable you to explore. And explore obviously is going out and finding the new things, okay? And remember, a lot of the stuff that's obvious to us today started as the new thing. My team does a lot of branded keyword search. I'm sure everybody here does that. Good, solid part of the stable. What about LLMs? A few years ago, CTV was an exploration for everyone. So you have to do that exploration. And when you have part that will lose money, fine. Part's going to break even. The part that pays off, that's where your alpha is going to come from. That's where you're going to outperform, not by optimizing your exploit, okay? But by getting that extra on the explore. And that's where your lobster or your truffle is, and that's what your CFO can't recreate with a few more agents. Now, AI is not the enemy or the villain here. AI is our best friend. If you're not deep into AI as a marketer, I think anybody not deep into AI should be looking into their resume pretty quickly. But AI is very useful on both sides here, but it's a different types of usefulness. So on exploitation, AI is your autopilot. Are these tried and tested environments for you? This is where you know a lot. This is where you have a lot of data, a lot of history. Something is working. Good. Automate it. Be very, very insistent on automating it. Change your practices, change your team, change your hiring, change your structure. Like really require it. That part, let the machine do its job because it's going to do better than you. On the explore part, AI is not going to make the decision for you, but it does cut down the cost and the time, and it lets you do a lot more exploration. I told you at the beginning that the Fox never would have happened a couple of years ago. The reason the Fox could happen now wasn't just because it was not as costly. It was not as costly to look at 5 different options in a much better way and then choose the Fox. And frankly, it's also a comfort for me as a marketing leader to know that if it doesn't work out, I'll know quickly and I will be able to change the Fox. Again, AI is making it possible to be brave, but you still have to exercise that option. Okay, and so it's your co-pilot on Explore, and you need to utilize that. So, wrapping up, 3 things. If you need to take 3 things away from this talk. The first is, find your system, create your system. If you don't have a better idea, try a portfolio. So build your portfolio. You need to be very deliberate about exploring and exploit. Don't kind of let it happen to you. You need to be very deliberate. You need to make sure you're putting enough risk in the portfolio and that you're willing to lose some of the time. The second is, make your move. So AI will not make the bet for you. It will give you a lot of clarity that you never had before, but it won't make the move. And AI does not have style. It does not have a sense of belonging or accountability. It doesn't have a team that it trusts. Those are the things you have, and that's what makes it your marketing team and not somebody else's. So you can make that move. You make the move because you saw some promising early data. You make the move because there's someone on your team that is very passionate about something and you believe in their instincts. You make the move because you saw something in a different space and you're telling yourself, I know this can work for me. I can make this work. These are valid reasons to dare and to explore. And the third is own the outcomes. So I came to marketing from strategy, from corp dev. I really refused to see marketing as a cost item or as a cost center from day one. I think marketing is a business and I want to run it like a business. I want to deploy capital and I want to see a return. The return needs to be tangible enough in revenue so that I can get my CFO and my CEO on board. Okay, at meaningful scale in a public company. I have to do it. And when you're running a business and you overachieve, you get to reinvest your surplus. So last year, my teams overachieved on their goals. We didn't just kick back that extra surplus to the CFO. We came in with a business plan and we funded additional exploration. When you move away from being that cost item into something that creates interesting value above the average, you're becoming more irreplaceable. So build your portfolio, make your move, and own the outcomes. The title of the talk today was, Are You the Marketer That AI Replaces? So I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that AI is absolutely coming for those of us who are waiting for an analysis or hiding behind it, optimizing something that's obvious, waiting for certainty before you make a move. I think AI is coming for that marketer for sure. I don't think AI is coming for the marketer who is looking to take a chance, to be bold, to be brave in a systematic way. I think that marketer is going to beat the average. They're going to beat alpha decay. They're going to be more irreplaceable than ever because they're going to be more rare than ever. It's going to be more difficult to excel than ever. So if you're that marketer, you're not being replaced. Okay? I think really AI is going to favor the bold. And the question is, are you going to be one of the bold and one of the brave or not? Have a great OMR.